Okay, today's daf is Shabbat daf Kaf Gimel. We're going to start at the very bottom of Kaf Bet and Mubet. Today's shir is dedicated by Heather Stone in memory of Debbie Bat Shirley, the best friend of Heather Stone's aunt, Debbie Stone, who passed away before Shabbat from coronavirus. Okay, so we were in this conversation about is Hadlaka Osa Mitzvah or Hanacha Osa Mitzvah? Okay, is it important, the lighting of the candles, the Hanukkah candles, or is it placing it in its place? So we brought one proof one way, it didn't work. We brought another proof the other way, it didn't work. And now we're going to go find a different proof. Tashma. So we're at the very last line of Kaf Bet and Mubet. The Amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi said, he's in Emora, in Eretz Israel, and he said, if you have a glass jar with a candle in it that was going the whole day, meaning you lit it before Shabbat and it was still lit after at the end of Shabbat, L'motzei Shabbat, what do you do on Motzei Shabbat to light it for Hanukkah? Mechabet umadlika. You put it out and then relight it. So what does this prove? Well, Iyamart bishlama hadlaka osa mitzvah shapir. If you say hadlaka is what makes the mitzvah, so then that makes a lot of sense. Ela Iyamart hanacha osa mitzvah. Now, if you say it's putting it down that's important, then what's missing here? Hi mechaba umadlika. Why does it say you put it out and you relight it? Mechaba umagbiha umanicha umadlika mibayle. It should have said you put it out, stand it up, put it down in its place, and then you light it. So the fact that Hanacha is missing here from the description shows that that's not what's so important. Ve'od, and furthermore, and here's I think the strongest proof, midekama brachina asher kedeshanu mitzvah tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Chanukah shma mina hadlaka osa mitzvah. What's the bracha? We say asher that commanded us to light the candles, which sounds like it's the lighting of the candles and not the putting of them down. And therefore, Shema Mina, therefore the Gemara concludes the importance of the mitzvah is lighting the candles and not putting it down, which again then means that when you light them, they have to be in the place that they're supposed to be. Now they say, we're now going to have some halachic conclusions from the fact that it says hadlaka osa mitzvah. So therefore, hidlika cheresh shotev katan lo asa v'lo klum. If the Chanukiah is lit by someone who's not considered of sound, they don't have knowledge, okay, this is our general category. Cheresh here we generally mean a deaf person who also is a mute, can't speak and can't hear. And a shoteh, someone who his mind doesn't work properly, or a katan, a minor. All those people, their lighting is lo asa v'lo klum. Because why does that prove it? Well, if they lit and someone else puts the Chanukiah in the right place, then that theoretically would be okay if we say Hanacha osa mitzvah. But since we say Hadlaka is what's important, therefore their lighting is not considered fulfillment of the mitzvah. Isha, however, a woman, avadai madlika, for sure, a woman's lighting counts. Da'amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, nashim chayavot b'ner Chanukah, very famous line. Women are chayavot in ner Chanukah, sha'af hen hayu ba'oto hanes. They were also part of the miracle. Okay, what part of the miracle were they? What does it mean the women were part of the miracle? There's two ways to understand this. This comes up, by the way, it comes up in Heseba, the Arba Kosot, on the 4 cups on Pesach. It comes up by Kriyat Megillah. Same exact thing. There's two main and basic interpretations. Does it mean that they were the main people in the mitzvah? Like, for example, Esther would be the heroine of the story. It becomes a little bit trickier when you get into Pesach. It's not like there was a main woman. Okay, you could say, like Miriam, not exactly. They say the Nashim Tzidkaniyot that encourage the men to still have children. Here in this story, there's Yehudit, who is the heroine. She's talked about in Sefer Cheshmonaim. She killed the ruler. So there's her as a possibility. In the Yerushalmi, it says, that means they were also going to be destroyed, or they were in a bad situation just like the men, and because of that they were also saved, and that's a whole different interpretation. And in fact, the Tosfot proves it, because Tosfot, not here, but forget which sugya, maybe I forget where it comes up, but Tosfot, I think in a few of the places, talks about that. It's actually on the sheet. I just don't have it in front of me. My printer wasn't working this morning, but I can open it. But it says that because of the wording, Tosfot says, af sounds like even. Okay, but even the women, which sounds like they weren't the main players in the story, they were also in the story. Okay, here it says it in Psachim. In Psachim on Daf Kufchet, Tosfot says, right, he quotes the Yerushalmi. I brought it on the sheet today. And then it says, Farber Tiknu, right? Okay, you can see it on the sheet. Right, it says Chanukah Yudei Yehudit and Megillah Yudei Esther, and then he quotes the Yerushalmi there. Okay, and then he says the wording af sounds like it's more convincing that they were also, but not necessarily that they were the main players. Okay, so two approaches to Aten Yuboto Anes. Continuing. Amar Rav Sheshet, Achsenai Chayav B'ner Chanukah. Okay, someone who is a guest in someone else's house has to do Ner Chanukah. So Amar Rabbi Zera, Miresh Hava Bei Rav. It used to be when I would go to Rav's house. Okay, we talked about this before, that it shows how they learned in those days. They would go to the rabbi's house, and while, right, they would kind of live there, and that's how they would study. So it says, I used to go to my rabbi's house, so what would I do? I would pay money to be part of the whole mitzvah of Hanukkah candles. Instead of lighting by yourself, at least you pay money to the here it was Rav, I guess, whose house he was in, and he would pay money, and then you would be part of his Hanukkah candles. But Batar de Nesibe Itita, after I got married, Amina, now it's interesting, after he got married, he was still during Hanukkah in his rabbi's house. So once he was married, Amina hashta vaday lo tzrichna. Now I clearly don't need to give any money to be part of Hanukkah candles. Because in my house they're lighting for me. Because they're lighting for me in my house, I don't actually need to give money toward this. So it's interesting. On the one hand, they say if you're a guest, you have to be part of Hanukkah candles light there. On the other hand, if someone's lighting in your house for you, then that covers you. Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Kol hashmanim kulan yafim laner. Okay, any oils can be used. This is the whole discussion we had before. Is it the same? That's how we got here in the first place. Is it the same oils as Shabbat, or is it different oils? Right? Can you use the oils that you can't use on Shabbat? So we already showed that we can use the oils because we're not worried about all the issues that come up on Shabbat. Because remember, we can't use the candles, and therefore any oil can be used. However, Shemen Zayit min hamuvchar. You're better off using olive oil. Amar Abaye, Meresh hava mahader mar amishcha deshum shemei. First, he used to go looking for sesame oil. Amar hai mashach nehorai tfei, because he said it lights much better. But kevan deshama mahader Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. But once I heard what Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi said is that you're supposed to have olive oil, mehader amashcha dezeta. So then I went looking for olive oil instead. Amar haitzil nehorai tfei, because he said that's even clearer. Okay, the idea is that the shemen zayit has a much nicer look of the flame, and therefore that's the best one. Now, once we're talking about olive oil, we're going to talk about it for something else also. Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, kol hashmanim yafim ladio, v'shemen zayit min hamuvchar. All oils are good for ink, but shemen zayit is the best. Okay, now how did they make ink? So they would create smoke from either olive oil or from wood, and they would burn it, and from the soot that they would get, that's how they would prepare the ink. They would take that and then mix it with olive oil. So they use the olive oil for two parts of the process, both for the smoking potentially, and also for afterwards they would mix it with olive oil to kind of thicken it, thicken the soot that they would get, and that's how they would create the ink. So it says here, he says you should best use shemen zayit. So the question becomes, since you use oil in two parts of the process, is it for the smoking part, lashen, or is it legabel, when you mix it after and you thicken the dough, the ink, is it for the later part? So Tashma, let's learn from here. Detani Rav Shmuel bar Zutra, kol hashmanim yafim lidio, v'shemen zayit min hamuvchar, bein legabel, bein lashen. So this says, right, whether it's legabel or whether it's lashen, both are, right, either which way, you need best to use shemen zayit, so therefore the answer is both. But Rav Shmuel bar Zutra matnehachi, he had a different version of that source. Kol ha'ashanim yafin lidio v'shemen zayit min hamuvchar. So he just said kol ha'ashanim yafin lidio. Notice that. All the smoking can be used, but shemen zayit is best, which means only for the smoking part of it and not necessarily for mixing it after. After, it really doesn't matter. So we have two different versions. Is it for both or is it just for the smoking part? Amar Rav Huna, kol hasrafim yafim lidio v'sraf haktaf yafem mikulam. All kinds of sap. Now, one thing they would do after they would mix it with olive oil, sometimes they would add sap to it because that would help it stick, make the ink sticky, which would then have it stick to the parchment. So, so all of sap is good for the ink. However, the sap of the balsam tree is better than all the rest. Okay, this is just, we're getting off on the side of what the best way to make ink is. Okay, I feel like any one of those videos of how they made ink in ancient times, but that would be helpful. Okay, now we get to who makes a bracha. So the person who lights the candle makes a bracha. Tzarich levarech. Rav Yomi amar haro en ner Chanukah tzarich levarech. Not only if you light Hanukkah candles, but even if you see Hanukkah candles, you're supposed to make a bracha. Now, this obviously doesn't mean if you're going to light yourself, but if you're not going to light yourself, then you can actually make a bracha just on seeing the Hanukkah candles. So now we're going to see what brachot do they make. So, Amar Rav Yehuda, Yom Rishon, haro'eh mevarech shtayim, u'mevarech madlik shlosha, mikam ba'elach madlik mevarech shtayim, ve'ro'eh mevarech echad. Depends what day you're on, and it depends who you are. The person lighting makes 3 blessings on the first day and 2 on the subsequent days. What are those 3? Lahadlik ner shel Chanukah, she'asa nisim lavotenu, right? That God did miracles, and shechianu. And on the subsequent nights, only 2 because you don't say shechianu anymore. Although the Gemara is going to a little bit question that, or not exactly question, but kind of clarify that. So we'll get to it in a minute. I'm kind of saying what's obvious to us because we know, because this is what we do every year. Now, the ro'eh, someone who sees who's obviously not going to make which bracha, the one lahadlik ner, because he's actually not lighting. So he makes the bracha she'asa nisim and shechianu, and then again, he wouldn't say shechianu on the second day, or third, fourth, etc. Amar Rav Yehuda, okay, so now they say my mema'et. Okay, we're now 4 lines from where the lines get wide. Which bracha do we skip? Okay, on the subsequent days, mema'et zman, we get rid of shechianu. So now they say v'nimut nes. Maybe we should get rid of the one about the miracle because we already said about the miracle. So they say no, nes, and the obvious, right? Nes kol Yomi ite. There was a miracle every single day of Hanukkah, and therefore we make a bracha on a miracle every night. Okay, it's interesting that the Gemara actually suggests. You wonder what they're thinking, why they would even suggest that shechianu you would say every night, right? That seems strange. Usually you say shechianu once, and then that's it. Right, the only time we say shechianu twice is when? And Rosh Hashanah, right? Because each day is maybe Rosh Hashanah, maybe the first day. That's the reason why. But normally you wouldn't say shechianu more than once. So I'm not exactly sure what the Gemara was thinking maybe you would say shechianu every night of Hanukkah. Okay, my mevarech, what's the bracha? Asher mevarech asher kedeshanu mitzvotav tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Chanukah. And there's a big issue with this bracha. What's the issue? Well, Hanukkah is a mitzvah that the rabbis instituted, right? There was no Hanukkah in the Torah, and yet it says God commanded us. So, Hechan Sivanu, where did God command us to keep the mitzvah of Hanukkah? Rav Avia amar milo tasur. Okay, what's lo tasur? This is where it says you have to go by the Torah that the rabbis teach you. Asher Yerucha. Okay, it's a pasuk in Dvarim Perek Zayin, pasuk in Aleph. Ba'al mishpat asher yomru lecha ta'aseh. Very famous pasuk. Lo tasur min hadavar sheyagidu lecha yaminu smol. You can't veer right or left from what the rabbis tell you. Okay, you have to keep with there. It's really not even time. It's talking about the Beit Din and the court. You have to keep by what the court says. So now, how do we say that? Right, that's the commandment. Becomes a very fascinating discussion. They basically say God commanded us to listen to what the rabbis say. So therefore, since it's rabbinic, right? The rabbi said we have to keep Hanukkah, so we're commanded by God to keep Hanukkah. And it's kind of like the transitive property almost. So now, this obviously raises a question because then do you make a mitzvah, you make a bracha on every Rabbanit? So we're going to get to that in a minute. But before we get there, we have another explanation. Ask your father and he will tell you. Your zkenim, your elders, and they will tell you. Meaning, our right? This is what we've been taught since we were young children. Our religion is all about tradition. Pass it down, do what your fathers did, do what your grandfathers did. Since they did this, therefore you continue and do this. And God commanded us that. That comes up in Tvarim Perek Lamed Bet. And since God, right, in Parshat Ha'azinu, since God commanded us to do that, therefore we're supposed to keep with what the rabbis say. And therefore we were commanded to do Hanukkah. Okay, so now, what's the difference? So first of all, it's less rabbi-oriented. If you talk about the differences between these two psukim, so the second one is really not rabbi-oriented. It's really based on what your father did and his father and his father and his father. It's the tradition. Lo tasur is keep what the rabbis are saying. That's one difference. The other difference that I came up with is, I'm sure you come up with other ones, lo tasur is a negative commandment. Shalom v'yigedcha is a positive commandment. Okay, so either which way, we have to keep what they said, and therefore we can say them. It's the bracha asher k'sham sav sivan. But Mativ Rav Amram. Rav Amram now brings a question from another source, which seems to indicate that we don't actually, it's a Mishnah in Demai, and it seems like we don't make a bracha on a D'Rabbanan. No, Demai is a D'Rabbanan. What is Demai? We've learned this already. Da-mai it stands for, which is we don't know its status. You get produce from an Ama Aretz. We're not sure if they do Trumot or Masrot or not, right? We generally think they do Trumot, but they don't necessarily do Masrot. And the question is, right, we should be taking our own Maser from these fruits because maybe they didn't take the Maser. So Hadamai, what can you do if you have Damai? What are you allowed to do with it? In a sense, it's a little bit like a forbidden food because it's safek whether it's tevel or not. Now tevel, you're not allowed to eat. Tevel is something you haven't yet taken Trumot or Masrot from. So the question is, what are we allowed to do if we have Damai produce? So ma'arvin bo, you can use it for your eruv, okay, even though theoretically maybe it's tevel, but it's only safek, and therefore you can use it to make an eruv. Again, your eruv to allow you to carry, or let's say an eruv tafshilin to allow you to cook on Yantif, right, when it comes out for Shabbat, when it comes out 2 days of Yantif. When a Yantif comes out before Shabbat. Umish tatfimbo, that's shitufim mevo'ot. That's if a bunch of us live in an alleyway and we want to carry, so you can put, it's called the shitufim mevo'ot. We kind of call it an eruv, but it's really shituf mevo'ot. Again, there's always food there, so you can use it. Umivrachin alav, if you want to eat it, well, you have to make a bracha before and a bracha after. Umizamnin alav, you make a zimun. Let's say it was wheat and you made bread out of it. Umafrishino to alon. Okay, here's the important line. You can take, when you take your masrot from there out of safek, you can do it even when you're not clothed, okay? You're naked. So we'll get to that in a second. Ben hashmashot, and you can even do it ben hashmashot. You can separate the maser ben hashmashot. Why ben hashmashot? What's the significance? Well, number one, they mean on Erev Shabbat. And why ben hashmashot? Normally ben hashmashot we say is already Shabbat. However, ben hashmashot is only forbidden from the rabbis. It's only considered Shabbat in a rabbinic sense because we're not sure, is it day, is it night? And because of that, and it's only D'Rabbanan that we can't, it's a question whether we're even being mafresh Trumot Masrot or not here, right? Was it already done? Or are we just, doing it out of safek, so we allow it to be done ben hashmashot. So now, going back to how we take the Trumot, the Masrot, we do it naked, which seems to imply, it seems to imply we don't make a bracha, and that's why you can do it if you're naked. Because if we say every D'Rabbanan needs a bracha like Hanukkah, how could you be naked? If you're standing naked, you can't make a bracha. It says your machaneh has to be sanctified, which is really talking about using the outhouse and covering up your stuff. But really what it means, right, we take from that when we pray, we have to be in a sanctified manner. We can't be without clothes. So therefore, Amar Abai, no, the distinction here is Badai de Dibrahem by bracha, Safek de Dibrahem lo by bracha. Hanukkah, it's true, it's a D'Rabbanan, but it's not a Safek, it's not a doubtful situation. Demai is a doubtful situation. If you're in doubt and you do something because the rabbi said you should do it, then you don't need to make a bracha. But if it's Vadai, the rabbis institute something, then you make a bracha. And that's why we make a bracha. So now they suggest, wait a minute. All Safek D'Rabbanans, we don't make a bracha. We're going to bring you an example where we do make a bracha on a Safek D'Rabbanan. The Hayom Tov Sheni, the Safek de Divremu, right? This is coming up soon. 2 days of Yantif in Chutz La'aretz. So it's Safek Divrehem. This is the rabbis instituted, right? That we're not sure about the dates. And therefore, right, it's a Safek D'Rabbanan, Ubai bracha, and yet you make a bracha. When you sit at Leila Seder, you make a bracha on the matzah, on the maror, right? Every time you make kiddush on every holiday, you make bracha on lighting candles. All the brachot you make on the second day, even though it's a safek, right? It's safek, is today the day or is it the next day? So, or the previous day, depending on what day you're in. So what do they say? That's hatam, that has its own unique reason. And that's because okay, we don't want people to take second day of Yantif not seriously, right? It's a big concern because people will say, oh, it's, nowadays we don't really need second day Yantif. So, right, and I know there's a lot of people who even talk about it nowadays. Why do we still do this, right? It seems crazy. We still do this. So they wanted people to take it seriously. Now, if you don't make brachot, no one's going to take it very seriously, right? They're going to say, oh, this is silly, right? If we're not even making brachot, it obviously isn't really a thing, and therefore they'll stop keeping it. They really wanted people to keep it, and therefore they said that you make bracha anyway. So again, you have a vadai d'Rabbanan, you make a bracha. If you have a safek d'Rabbanan, you don't make a bracha unless there's some other consideration, like in second day Yantif. Rava Amar, different answer. Okay, now we have another answer. Our whole question was, what about Demai? If you say d'Rabbanan, we make a bracha. So again, we distinguish between vadai and safek, but now we're going to have a different answer. Rava Amar, Rova me'aretz ma'asrin hein. It's a matter of percentages, statistics. In other words, statistically, most of me'aretz actually do take masra, and therefore we don't make a bracha because we treat Demai as safek, but it's not like a 50-50 safek. It's like a 70-30 or 80-20, and because such a small percentage of a chance that they haven't done it, that's why we don't make a bracha. Okay, moving on. Amar Rav Huna. Now we get to a very interesting issue that comes up about, okay, I'll just preface it by saying, how concerned do we need to be about people, let me try to think about how to put it. When you do something, right, many times you do something, and the question is, what does it look like to the outside person, okay? Like, it might look like you're breaking a law or doing something wrong, but you know that you're not doing anything wrong. So do you have to be concerned to do things in a way, right? Sometimes you know you're doing something, and people are going to think, right? Let's take now. So in Israel, you're not allowed to walk out on the streets, right? So you have an excuse why you're walking out on the streets. It's a legitimate excuse. It's written in the laws. It's okay. But nobody knows that. They don't know why you're going out and what you're doing. And they might look at you and say, oh, I can't believe she's walking on the street, right? And so you have to think about, right, how do you have to think about that, consider that, or not? Should you not go out because people will start talking about you and thinking about things, right? Generally, we try to say, well, you do what you're confident in doing, and I know my father brought me up this way, you're confident that you're doing the right thing, don't worry, what other people are going to say. But the Gemara actually is very concerned with what other people think. This is what we often call marit ayin, right? And they don't want people thinking that you're not doing the right thing. So we're going to talk about this. This is going to affect our halacha. Amar Rav Huna, chatzir sheyesh la shnei ptachim. You have a courtyard which has two entrances. Tzricha shtei nerot. You have to put candles on one side and on the other side. So Rava Amar lo amaran ela mishtei ruchot. It's only if they're in two different directions, the openings to the chatzir. Aval miruach achat lo tzarich. But if they're both, you have two entrances on the same side of the street, well, then you don't have to worry about it. So my timer, what's the reason? If it's because we're worried people are going to suspect that you didn't do the mitzvah of Hanukkah, chashada deman. Who exactly are we worried about? If we're worried, okay, let's say I have two entrances to my house. Now, you live on my block. You know that I have two entrances to my house because you see me all the time and you see my house and you know how it works. So we're obviously not worried about people in the neighborhood because they all know, and then they'll know you must have done it on the other side. So maybe the chashad is if some passerby from some other community walks by. So if you're worried about some random passerby, then even if they're both in one direction, you should have people worry about, you should be concerned because they don't know, right? They'll see two exits to your chatzir or two entranceways, and they won't know that that's both your house. Right, I have it funny in my house. I have a side entrance and an entrance through the garage. And sometimes people come asking for money, and they'll come to one door and then they'll come to the other door because they don't know that they're both part of the same house because they're in two different sides. So if it's someone who doesn't know, so then even if the entrance can be seen from one side of the street, theoretically they might think it's two different houses. So therefore, that can't be the issue. Otherwise, we require it on both sides, right? Even if it's on one side. And yet we only require it if the entranceway is on different sides. So therefore they say, and if it's people of the city, because they know, right, they'll see I didn't light candles here, but they'll say, oh, but I know, right, he's got another side, he's probably lighting on the other side. So how do we figure this out then? What's our chashad then? So the answer, we really are worried, the people of your city. It could be someone will pass by one side and they won't pass by the other side, and they'll see you didn't light candles, and they won't think, oh, maybe they lit on the other side, and they'll suspect you of not having lit candles. And interestingly, that because of that, we make you light extra candles, right? It's an interesting chashad. Why do we care if people think that you didn't light Hanukkah candles, right? Why is that such a big deal? I'm not exactly sure, but they obviously think it's a big deal that people shouldn't suspect you of not having lit Hanukkah candles. So now they say, right, I'm sorry, I didn't finish the whole sentence in the Gemara, and people will say, just like he didn't light on this side, he didn't light on the other side, right? Obviously, this person, whoever's going to suspect you, their parents never taught them, right? You should be down the chafschut, and you should assume that people are doing the right thing, but we're always worried about the people who don't keep to those things and are going to think bad things about you. So now they say, the Gemara says, from where do we get this concept that we're worried about what people are going to say about you? Okay, they're not going to exactly explain why. Okay, I would have liked the Gemara to have asked, why are we concerned with what people are going to say? But they're asking, where do we have it? Where do we have a precedent that we're worried about what people are going to say about it? Titania. So they say the following bright. Amar Rabbi Shimon, b'shvil arba'a dvarim amra Torah laniach pe'ah b'sof sadehu mipnei hagez. Okay, so let's stop for a second. There were 4 reasons why the rabbis instituted that when you leave the corner of your field for the poor people, the pe'ah, you're supposed to leave it at the end of the season, okay? Right after you finish harvesting, at the end of the harvest, that's when you leave it, not earlier on. Why is that? For 4 reasons. Mipnei gezel aniyim, mipnei bitul aniyim, mipnei chashad, umishum bal techaleh. So now we're going to go one by one and explain all of these things. מפני גזל עניים שלא יראה בעל הבית שעה פנויה ויאמר לקרובו אני הרי זו פאה. We don't want someone to say, okay, we can steal from the poor. How do we steal from the poor? By leaving them a corner of the field? Well, you can say, you can choose, if you don't have to do it at a specific time at the end, you could choose any random time. Now what happens basically, you make your field, the corner of your field hefker. Anyone can come and get it. Anyone can come and get it, then what's the issue? Well, the issue is that if you want to give it to a particular poor person, like a poor relative of yours, there's no way to guarantee he'll get it over anyone else. But if, right, especially if it all happens at the same time at the end of the season, then all the aniyim will be there and everyone has fair chance to get it. But if you can decide any random time and no one will have any idea when you're doing that, then you can go tell your poor relative, hey, I'm going to do pe'ah right now. Come to my field. I'll make it hefker. You take it. And now he's basically stolen the chance from any other poor people to get his field. So that's not appropriate. Okay. What's this? This is an interesting one. In other words, think about the solution to the previous problem is, well, the aniyim will kind of sit there waiting for the people to make their fields pe'ah, right, to put the pe'ah out. So if there's a large amount of time in which this can happen, then basically you're going to have all these aniyim sitting doing nothing, just waiting for the owners to make the corner of their field pe'ah. So we don't want to do that. So we basically make it, right, a certain small time frame where the aniyim can go around from field to field and they don't have to waste their time otherwise not doing anything. Right, thinking, right, thinking all the time, oh, maybe he's going to leave it right now. Here comes the important part for our purposes. What happens if somebody walks by at the end of your season? Let's say you left a few weeks before the end of the season, the aniyim came and took it, and then you finished harvesting your field, and somebody walks by and says, hey, you harvested your entire field. You didn't leave the corner for the poor people, right? People will suspect you that you didn't do it. And because we don't want people to suspect you, therefore we say do it at the end so that you basically harvest everything and leave a corner, and then everyone will know that you did the mitzvah of pe'ah. So again, you have this concern about things you have to do so that people don't suspect you of wrongdoing. Umishum bal techaleh. Okay, what's bal techaleh? Well, that's the pasuk. That's where it talks about pe'ah. It says, when you're harvesting your field, don't finish cutting, right? Leave the pe'ah for the poor people. So lo techale means don't cut everything. So now the last reason is because of lo techale. So now the Gemara says, what are you talking about? Isn't that the whole mitzvah bal techale? That's not a separate thing. So Amarava mipnei haramaim. He's saying because of the rama'im, which are the people who don't leave pe'ah and say, oh, I left it earlier, right? And we don't want those people, right? We want to avoid those people from taking advantage of being able to take a situation and say, oh, well, I'll take advantage and I'll just pretend, I'll claim that I did my pe'ah earlier. Therefore, they say, no, it has to be at the end of the season. Okay, so for all those reasons, you have to do pe'ah only, right? You have to, again, when you cut everything, you have to then leave your corner at the end. Okay, so again, we've answered our question as to where do we have precedent for this issue of chashad, but we didn't actually answer why we really have to be so concerned for chashad. So you can think about that. Again, I mean, I think, you see people on the street, like people in general have different approaches to this. Some people are super careful not to do anything that would ever arouse suspicion, and other people say, I'm doing what I'm doing, and hopefully people will not suspect me of doing wrongdoing. Okay. Amar Yitzchak bar Radifa Amar Rav Huna. Ner sheyesh lo shnei feot ola l'shnei bnei adam, shnei piot ola l'shnei bnei adam. If the candle, okay, remember they had them in this kli. If there's two openings, let's say there's a cover with two wicks coming out, so that can work for two different people. Again, this is according to the base mitzvah that you only light one candle. Obviously, when we light the way we light, where we light the number of candles per night, this would be more complicated. Amarava, milei ka'ara shemen v'kifat ptilot. If you fill a bowl full of oil and you put a lot of different wicks in, kafa aleha kli, if you put a kli on top with, again, holes for each one, oleh l'kama b'nei adam, you can even use it for a number of people. But lo kafa aleha kli, if you don't put a kli on top, what will happen? Asa'ah kemin midura, you have a bunch of wicks, it ends up being more like a torch. And then, this doesn't even work for one person because Nerot Chanukah are not meant to be a torch. I assume the reason they can't be a torch is because what's the concern? That we're worried that people will think you're using it for light and not for the purposes of Hanukkah candles, and therefore it doesn't work. Okay, Amarava. Pshitali ner beito v'ner Chanukah ner beito adif. Now we start getting into what are our priorities? If we don't have enough money for everything, what do we do? What's more important? So, ner Hanukkah or ner beito, which they assume means ner Shabbat, okay, Shabbos candles. If you don't have enough money for both, ner beito adif, better Shabbat candles, mishum shlom beito, right? One of the main reasons given for Shabbat candles is that there be light. We talked about this at the beginning of the parak, that the real issue was for lighting purposes. And because of that, we want to make sure that people don't, come and step on other people, hit other people, right? They'll end up with fighting, right? We want shlom bayit, which if it's dark, if there's not going to be shlom bayit. So therefore, that's more important. Near beito v'kiddush hayom, what if you have basically Shabbat candles versus wine for kiddush, which is more important? Again, near beito adif mishum shlom beito. Now that's interesting because you think Kiddush is kind of midoraita, Zachorat Yom Shabbat l'kadsho, and we say that's Kiddush. You would have to do that midoraita, and candle lighting we already talked about, right? Seem to have developed later, more for an issue of having light. And yet they say that's more important. Now again, Kiddush could be said without wine. So theoretically, one can make Kiddush on bread. So you could still kind of mention Shabbat without needing the wine. And therefore we say Ner Beito is Adif, because again, Shlom Bayit is this very important issue. By Rava, now the obvious question, we left aside Ner Chanukah, we left aside Kiddush. What about Ner Chanukah v'Kiddush Hayom? What about between the two of them? You don't have enough money for wine or Chanukah candles. What do? Kiddush Hayom Adif, Ditadir. Do we say Kiddush is more important because that's something we do regularly, and we often see precedents to things that are regular? Oh, Dilma Ner Chanukah Adif. Or do we say Chanukah candles are more important? Mishum Persume Nisa, because it's very important to publicize this miracle. So, Batar Dibai, after he asked the question, Rava answered it himself. Hadar Pashta, he answered it himself. Ner Chanukah Adif Mishum Persume Nisa. Interestingly, we don't go by Tadir. We actually say Ner Chanukah is more important because it's so important to publicize this miracle that we put that more important than Shabbat, than Kiddush on Shabbat. Again, Kiddush on Shabbat can always be done without wine. And maybe it's interesting, they don't say that's the reason, but that could be also part of their consideration. Amar Rav Huna, Haragil B'ner, now we're going to have a bunch of statements about how important it is to light candles in general. And here it seems to be talking about both Shabbat candles and Hanukkah candles. If you light candles, Haviyalam Banim Tamidei Chachamim. This was the rabbi's way of trying to encourage people to do this. You'll end up with Tamidei Chachamim for your children. Hazahir b'mezuzah. Now, what's the connection? Okay, we'll see. I'll go on a minute and then we'll come back. Hazahir b'mezuzah. If you keep the mitzvah mezuzah, zochel l'dira na'ah. You'll have a nice house. Okay, if you're careful about the mitzvah mezuzah, you'll end up with a nice house. Hazahir b'tzitzit. Zochel l'talina. You'll end up with nice clothes if you're careful about tzitzit. Hazahir b'kiddush hayom. If you're very careful about wine for kiddush, zochem u'malei garbei yain. You'll have a lot of wine. So all these make a lot of sense other than the candles and the Talmidei Chachamim. What's the connection between the two, right? All the other things are a direct connection. We call that midah keneged midah. So Rashi says, Dichtiv, by Banim Talmidei Chachamim, ki ner mitzvah v'torah or. Okay, because the ner, right, the mitzvah is ner and the Torah is or, and therefore, since the Torah is like the light of a candle, so therefore, if you light a lot of candles, you'll end up with Banim Talmidei Chachamim. Again, this was, right, we always say this is the rabbi's way of just encouraging people to do this. I don't think they even thought that it was so directly connected, but they're trying to say you'll get rewarded. Rav Huna have a ragel to have a chalaf katana apitra debe Rabbi Avin Nagar. Okay, he would often go by the entrance of Rabbi Avin Nagar, the carpenter. He saw that he had a lot of candles. What this means, a lot of candles, maybe now some people light a lot of Shabbat candles, more than just two, the basic, right? So people light all different, sometimes the amount of kids they have, other people, all different reasons. So it seems to be he would light a lot of candles. Maybe it also means on Hanukkah, a lot of candles, because we talked about it's a hiddur mitzvah to have a lot of candles. Amar Trey Gavri Ravrave Nafke Mehacha. He says, you're going to have two great scholars coming from you. Nafke Minayi Rav Idi Bar Avin Bar Chia Bar Avin. And in fact, he had two Talmud scholars that were, born to him. Rav Chisda have a ragel of chalaf v'tana pitra de Beinasha. He would go by his father's door. By the Beinasha de Rav Shizbi. He would often go by the house of the father of Rav Shizbi, who we're only going to see that later became the father of Rav Shizbi. At that point, he was just a regular person. We don't know who he was. Chazid have a ragel b'shraga tuva. He saw that he had a lot of candles. Amar Gavra Rav Nafat Mehacha. He said, a great person is going to come from you. People talk about why in the previous thing did he say two great scholars, and in this one he said one. This person said one, but obviously you don't necessarily. The stories happen in different places with different people. Anyway, he said a great scholar is going to come from you, right? Some people say it was that one was Shabbat and Hanukkah candles, and one was only one of them, and maybe that's why. Anyway, they say great scholar is going to come from you, and in fact, we already know who came from him because we already started the story with that. Right, Nafit Minai Rav Shizbi. Rav Shizbi came from him as a result. Debitu de Rav Yosef, the wife of Rav Yosef, Havat Ma'achra Umad Lekela. She would light Shabbat candles late. Okay, if you remember, we talked about the Beinash Mashot. It wasn't so clear in those days. It wasn't as clear cut nowadays. Exactly the time for Shabbos lighting, and she would kind of delay till it was closer to really getting dark. So, now, what did he say? He said to her, he didn't want to know, this is great advice, okay? If you want to give someone advice, I was actually at a party for someone who was getting married, and they did these questions, like, how would you tell your husband that his breath smells bad or something, right? Like, there's a way to tell this to people. So you have to think about how to say things properly. So he wanted to tell his wife, you should light Shabbos candles earlier, but he didn't know how to do it. Yeah, I mean, he did know how to do it. He didn't want to say it directly. So what did he say? He said to her the following. Amar la Rav Yosef, Tanya, it says in the following, Braita, Lo yamish amud ha'anan yomam va'amud ha'esh laila. Okay, the amud ha'anan didn't move during the day, and the amud ha'esh didn't move at night, right? Didn't leave the people at night. This is in the desert. Now, it already had a sentence just before that talked about the amud ha'anan was there during the day, and the amud ha'esh was there at night. So why does it say it twice? So he says, the Braita says, Melamed sha'amud ha'anan mashlim la'amud esh, va'amud ha'esh mashlim la'amud ha'anan. So what does it show, right? That there was a crossover the Amud Anan wouldn't leave until the Amud Esh came. The Amud Esh wouldn't leave until the Amud Anan came. So therefore, what does he say? Right? That was his way of alluding to her, start Shabbat earlier. Okay? So she figures it out. She was a smart woman. Sabra Latdume. So she realizes, oh, I need to light candles earlier. Amar La. So she starts, so now it's unclear what happens, but it seems like maybe she started lighting really early. Okay, sometimes when you do, someone corrects you, so you go overboard. So Amar La Saba, so some elderly guy came over to her and said to her, Tanina, it says in the Braita, Ubavad shelo yatim v'lo ya'acher, right? You're not supposed to do it too early. Don't light Shabbos candles too early. And this is what we know, that the Shabbos candles, you can bring in Shabbat early, but you can't bring it in too early. It has to be at least after Plag Mincha. Okay, so he said, don't do it too early, but also, obviously, don't do it late. Amar Rava. This is a little bit of a non sequitur, right? It didn't really have to do with our issue, but I guess they were talking about candles and all that, so they brought it up. Amar Rava. Durachim Rabbanan, Havale Banim Rabbanan. Okay, if you have people who respect the rabbis, then you'll have children who are rabbis. Demokir Rabbanan, if they what's the difference? Derachim or right? These both are very similar. Rashi says Rachim is Ohev, and then Mokir is he gives respect to rabbis. If you respect rabbis, then Havule Chat Devata Rabbanan, you'll have sons-in-law who are Talmidei Chachamim. Didachim Rabbanan, if you're fearful of Rabbanim, who Gufe Havi Supreme Rabbanan. That's the highest level. You will yourself become a Talmid Chacham. V'ilav, this is a very funny thing. V'ilav Barhachi, who, what if you're not the type that's going to be learning? Okay, so you fear rabbis, but you're not the learning type. So, Mishtamina Mile Kitzor V'Merabanan. People will accept what you say as if you're a Talmid Chacham. Which actually makes sense, because it means that you have respect for them. It means that the things you say are things that the rabbis said, right? You're kind of repeating their words, so therefore people will respect you as if you said them. Okay, we're finished with that whole section. Now we're moving on to the Mishnah, we're up to Shemen Sreifa. What is Shemen Sreifa? The Loba Shemen Sreifa, it's another oil that you can't use. My Shemen Sreifa, Amarava, Rabba, Shemen Shel Tuma Shenitma'a. It's oil that you burned. Why do you burn it? Because it was true when it became impure, and we're supposed to burn that. Why? Because you're supposed to burn it. Ubishabbat, my time alone. So why can't you use it on Shabbat? Because there's a mitzvah to burn it. So, right, think about it. You want to light your Shabbos candles with it because it's a mitzvah to burn it. So, by lighting Shabbos candles, you can burn it. By the way, truma that burns, you're allowed to actually benefit from. So, it actually makes sense that you would do that. Then you can benefit from it as your Shabbos candles. What's the problem? Because you need to burn it, you want it to burn quicker. Because you want it to burn quicker, you're going to tilt the pan again with the oil, and that will make it burn quicker. And that's forbidden to do on Shabbat because you're helping things burn. So then we should allow it on Yom Tov. And because there's no problem with Shemen Yateh and Yom Tov. You can light from candle to candle, so you can obviously tilt the dish to help it burn quicker. So, and why does it say? It says in the Mishnah you can't light on Shemen Sreifa on Yom Tov. So they say Gzeri Yom Tov Atu Shabbat. We don't allow it on Yom Tov because then you might end up doing it on Shabbat. Rav Chisda Amar l'Shema Yateh lo cheshina. No, we're not worried about Shema Yateh. He gives a different reason. Elahacha b'Yom Tov shechal liyot be'erev Shabbat askina. We're talking about, okay, normally when you light your candles on Friday afternoon, it's not yet Shabbat. But if it was already Yontif, and then if Friday night came out on Yontif was Friday, and then you want to light your candles on Yontif, which you're allowed to do, then you can't use Shemen Sreifa because why? Because ein sorfin kodashim b'Yom Tov. So specifically, the Shemen Sreifa is only a problem, according to Rav Chisda, if it was Yontif came out on Friday. So then they say, but wait, it says in our Mishnah you can't learn Shemen Sreifa. It says in the further Mishnah you can't learn Shemen Sreifa b'Yom Tov. And we want to say that our Mishnah is Yom Tov. Doesn't make sense. Then this Mishnah is saying the exact same thing as it says later on. So, Rabbi Chanina Misura, Matam Kamar. No, it actually works. There, when it says, it's coming to explain the line in our Mishnah. Matam Okay, it says the reason we can't do it is because we can't light. The reason we can't, right? The Mishnah says it here and then says it there to explain the Shemen Sreifa we referred to earlier was specifically on Yantif. Okay, and that's Rav Chisda's answer. So we have two answers. One is Gzera Shemayate, and then the reason why we can't do it on Yantif also is because Gzera Atu Shabbat. And the second answer is because it's only talking about, and that would make this Mishnah very strange, that this one line of Shemin Streifa is only referring to when Erev Shabbat falls on Chag. Okay, and that's why, because you can't burn Kodashim, you can't burn sanctified items on Yom Tov. Okay, that's it for today. We'll pick up from here tomorrow. Thanks for joining us.